10 seconds. And good Wednesday morning, 3 minutes past 10 o'clock. We're already up to 86 degrees at the KRIM studios on West Frontier. Hope you're having a great hump day this morning in KRIM's Community Spotlight. We're talking with Gila County District 1 Supervisor Steve Christensen. Steve, how you doing this morning?
I'm very good, Randy. Thanks for having me, and hello to RIM Country.
There you go. They're always keeping you busy.
Oh, yeah.
Never a dull moment.
Keeping busy. Lots going on in the county right now.
Yep.
Post-fire flooding and
yeah, what a weird thing. We go from everybody being worried about fire to now everybody being worried about getting flooded, especially in these burn scar areas. Man, southern Gila County got nailed.
Well, the two fires, the Mescal and the Telegraph, they combined, and they're over 200,000 acres, and it's all in the mountains, the hills, and so all these places are just flooding, coming into Miami, Glow.
I mean, some of the video footage from that. I mean,
Yeah.
we even had some that's in our newscast on Tono TV today. But man, some of that is it was phenomenal, and even closed down the US 60 there for a while.
Right, and our road crews are just working nonstop to try and help and get that remediated, and it's just a big deal. We declared an emergency. The county board of supervisors declared an emergency for southern Gila County a couple of days ago, and what that does is it helps the governor then to do the same, so we can get FEMA money.
Right.
Because FEMA doesn't generally work on small projects like that. They're more like wiping out a huge hurricane or something, but
Right.
we need some extra money for this one.
Makes sense. And one of the cool things I know we had in the news either Monday or Tuesday of this week was really some kind of warm, fuzzy information out of southern Gila County about how the community down there really came together to help in the cleanup process and everything. Companies were designating manpower to help and equipment and things like that. And it just seemed like, at times like that, you can get really wigged out about what a terrible flood it was, but there's also some profoundly encouraging messages that come from just everybody coming together for the greater good.
There's a lot of good people here in Gila County. It's a rural county, and the more rural you are, the more you see that.
Right.
And it's just fantastic.
Outstanding. Now, speaking of rural areas, there hasn't been thus far any real significant flooding impacts around the greater Payson area here. But up just outside to the northwest of Strawberry, where that fire came through recently, there's been some concerns we were talking about just before going on the air today with some mitigation work that's still being done up there from the burn, but also how that might affect more work being done on the fiber optic line coming up out of the Childs area.
Right, you're talking about Fossil Creek and the
Right.
Backbone Fire, so that area is closed to the public. It might be closed really through the remainder of the year. We're not sure if they'll open it up again. There is a burn area emergency response team in there right now working on the roads and working on mitigation to try and keep that creek bed from being damaged with mudslides and stuff, because it's a fishery, it's a wild river, and you can ruin things in a hurry with a lot of stuff coming down into it. So they are working on that. There's basically 3 different roads in there that we refer to as the 708, which was the main road down into that area, which has been abandoned for a long time because APS is no longer in there. So the road is in states of disrepair. They're trying to fix that. That's where the fiber cable line for Payson comes from Camp Verde, the CenturyLink line.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're pretty concerned about that, keeping that going, because if that breaks or has damage, it could be days or weeks even to get that back, and that's not good.
Now that's currently or it has been historically for quite some time, the only fiber optic line that came into Payson, but there's a new one now. Sparklight has come into town, and I know we here at KRIM are now connected to that, and wow, I'm amazed at the bandwidth. It's astounding. But now the big hurdle is getting that out to the masses here.
Right, and so I've been involved with a couple of meetings recently regarding that. So Sparklight comes out of the Sholo area,
Right.
and they're already here in Payson, and so they have plans to get broadband to the public in Star Valley and in Payson, and then after that, Tono Basin, and then after that, into the greater areas of Gila County. So the county is in the process of writing a couple letters of support for a grant that they're applying for, because that's a $25 million project, and they'd be able to get a 50% match to do it. So they'll get $12.5 million on a grant, and that makes it competitive for them to bring this broadband in and then charge what you would call normal rates, the kind of rates that people pay in Phoenix and things like that.
Right, wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're big numbers, but that's what it takes to make this happen. And really, I think there's some interesting conjecture that I've been hearing from some different angles that, this could finally really open up Payson to other types of business wanting to relocate here now that they have that level of connectivity a possibility.
Absolutely. There's businesses that are prevented from being here, like say a call center,
Right.
Or a business that requires to have redundant technical ability with the fiber, and they're not going to be here. Now you say, oh, well, that's going to create unwarranted growth. It won't probably create that, but it'll bring a quality of growth that we need here in northern Gila County, where we actually end up with a greater tax base and higher paid people to be able to afford living here and things like that.
We had in our news here today, as a matter of fact, some information from a meeting last night that District 2 County Supervisor Tim Humphreys hosted down at the Chamber of Commerce building in Tonto Basin with the County Supervisor Thomas, good old Thomas, Goodman. Thomas Goodman is his name. And he was giving an update that it looks like they're finally going to make some headway on getting things rolling with the bridge across Tonto Creek down in Tonto Basin. And he also made a side comment that he felt like that was really going to be a positive for the economy down in Tonto Basin too, once that's done.
I would think so. Land prices and also just the safety.
Sure.
So this project has been rolling along. It just doesn't it doesn't look like it's perceivably moving. It is moving. There's obviously paperwork, there's studies, there's lots of things to go through, getting on the schedule with ADOT. But yes,
Right.
It is coming along, a couple 1,000-foot long bridge. It's a pretty major thing, and
Boy,
it's really great that we're going to have that finally. Been talking about it for decades.
It looks like it's, just from the renderings, looks like it's going to be quite an engineering marvel, especially for Tonto Basin.
Right. It's going to be what you would call like a concrete bridge that has the tall pillars like you would see in overpasses and stuff in Phoenix, but it's going to be a long, straight, 2,000-foot long bridge.
I know the engineer mentioned that they were doing some boreholes that would be 60 to 70 feet deep, I believe he said, 5 feet in diameter, that they then fill with rebar and fill up with concrete, and I mean, as the foundation of this structure. And going across Tonto Creek, I mean, obviously you got to have a pretty hefty structure there to be able to have that, withstand some of the problems that creek unfold for you.
Well, Tonto Creek is there's no reservoir, there's no dam, there's nothing to restrict it. So when we get into a situation where we have a big event, like huge amount of snow or whatever, it's got to be able to withstand whatever flooding that river's going to do.
Right. And it can really flow at times.
Yes.
Now, locally here in Payson, one of the other things that people have been probably watching the progress of, speaking of projects and construction and stuff, is the new county building right here on Frontier and 87. Looks like they are just making great progress and going great guns.
Lots of contractors in there working, and so I think we're going to see the outside starting to come together pretty soon here with the siding. It'll look like batten board, and so they're trying to make it look appropriate to the area. And so yeah, it's coming right along. They're still on schedule for December delivery.
Wow.
Yeah.
So December, that's just right around the corner.
Well, I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's what they're saying.
It's always good to have a goal, right?
That's right.
Interesting. So, and now that's going to be mainly courtrooms and things like that?
Well, it'll have the Board of Supervisors offices in there, and it's going to have a courtroom. Now, the courtroom is going to be a multi-purpose room, so it could be used for other events. It's not going to have permanently placed chairs and things, benches and all. So all that can be an open room where the Board of Supervisors could meet, or a court could meet, or another event of any nature that the community would want to do.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So multi-purpose.
It's designed to be multi-purpose.
Gotta love it. And now, when it comes to other activities for the county, boy, there's just no small number of things going on. I mean, when you look at, and especially with your other two supervisors, it's interesting. I know one of the things that was mentioned last night, some people, at least one at the meeting last night down in Tono Basin, expressing concern over, man, we moved here and now other people are moving here. We didn't think anyone else was going to move here. And Supervisor Humphrey kind of laughed and he said, well, if you feel that way, you ought to go down to Young and maybe check that out, because I think he said something about people there were talking about wanting to pave the road into Young, and he says he thinks they were run out of town with pitchforks. Apparently, they definitely do not want to see anything change.
And so that seems to be the sentiment. But I think we've been here 32 years, so I have come to the understanding that things will be changing. They're always changing. Nothing ever stays the same. The fact that I moved here 32 years ago was I was moving here.
Right.
And so people love the area. It's a beautiful place. I don't think there's a way we can stop the growth, or should we try? I don't think so.
Not without being hypocritical.
Yeah. I think what we should do is just try and make the growth appropriate, accommodating what resources that we have.
I mean, I understood where this guy was coming from last night, but I mean, when I moved to Payson 40 years ago, there was 5,000 people here, and now there's 16,000. I mean, I've seen a lot of changes, but really, I mean, it's been a lot of improvements too. It used to be that, we had Mike's Market and another little, wannabe grocery store, and other than that, and just about anything else you needed, you had to go to the valley for. And life has gotten a lot more convenient with a lot of the other stuff that came in with that growth.
It's yes, and I don't see Payson growing tremendously because we're really landlocked. So there's not a lot we can do. We have some more building we can do here, but I don't see us expanding footprint-wise very much.
It's not going to be like Goodyear or one of those places.
I don't see how that could be possible.
Right.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I like about Payson.
Yes.
So, what are some of the other challenges that, as a supervisor, you're having brought in front of you these days? What kind of things you working on?
Well, challenges. There's plenty of challenges, and the discussion never really stops when it comes to forest health. So, I'm on the board of the Coalition of Counties for Arizona and New Mexico. And so we talk about, in those meetings, we talk about how to fund projects for thinning of the forest and stuff, because sometimes things are so bad in an area, like, let's say, for instance, the C.C. Cragen Reservoir. It's a critical reservoir right now for a fire event.
Sure.
Okay, so
Real
it's a
steep
canyon, it's full of canyons, it's just impossible almost to work in there. So we put out for bid to have loggers go in there and log it, and no one bid. No one bid.
Wow.
So what that means is
Wow.
that you cannot make a profit doing it, and that means we got to pay somebody to do it. So it's been divvied up into about 10 different areas that they feel are critical, that are around this reservoir, that they want in a specific order to start working on. They're basically 3 years behind the projected start dates of all of this stuff, and they don't have the money, can't find the money to pay someone $7 million to go in and take care of the logging. So it always comes down to money, and there's an infrastructure bill right now in Congress. We've been talking with Mark Kelly and his office, and so we have people interested in working on it. We're pushing hard. We're waiting for the check. It just is amazing how long things take. And here we have a critical place that we know if it burns, it will destroy the C.C. Cragen Reservoir, and the pipeline to Payson then is wasted money. Can you imagine that happening?
It's a lot of millions of dollars.
That's just, and here we know the problem exists, but we can't find $7 million to help try and mitigate it.
I hadn't really thought about that though. But those canyon walls there, where the C.C. Cragen Reservoir is, I mean, that is really, really steep stuff.
You have to almost a helicopter log it,
And no wonder it's a pricey endeavor.
Yes, but you have to do that. You have to do it, or you'll lose the reservoir.
A few years ago, there was talk about, different uses for the ground up wood products and stuff like that from clearing projects. Has there been any more progress along those lines? Or, I mean, it seems like, a lot of the public talk on that seems to have waned a bit over the past couple of years.
I actually think that's a pretty good and viable solution to a lot of our problems when we can make the brush and the problem stuff that's in our forest a viable product to produce electricity with. Now, there's one plant, where is that, Randy?
Or in the White Mountains, over by Sholo or something like that,
or Springerville.
Or Snowflake maybe?
Snowflake, somewhere in there, and they are coming into our community here at the Blattner Pit, etc., and they're grinding up all of that material and they're taking it up in there and they're burning that. Now, I heard recently that they are about a year and a half away from shutting down if they cannot find more biomass. And they have to find the biomass through these projects we're talking about on logging, that the Forest Service needs to open up these areas so they can go in and get the biomass. If they don't have that to burn, they close their doors.
Well, didn't the Fort Fry initiative, didn't that open up a whole bunch of area to clearing that way?
Well, it's working on doing that. It's getting the Forest Service to say, yes, this is an approved project, let's go for it now.
Right.
It's just this slowness, this kind of slow dripping agony of never getting to it.
Right.
Everyone identifies the problem. They all say we have the problem. We know how to fix the problem.
Right.
And then here we wait.
Right. So I know yesterday again that meeting down in Tonto Basin regarding the bridge there, one of the concerns that was raised by a member of the Forest Service who was speaking there, as a matter of fact, the new Tonto Basin District Ranger was stating that
Jeremy?
I think that was his name.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But at any rate,
I know him.
I thought it was kind of interesting. They're talking about putting this thing out to bid in February and hopefully awarding the contract by March. And by the end of March, they need to have all of the clearing and the grubbing of all of the foliage that needs to be cleared for that project has to all be done before the end of March, because that's when nesting season comes in for the willow flycatcher and another interesting bird that I didn't even know we had down there, the yellow-billed cuckoo. But they said that if they're under a tight deadline to get that done. If they don't get it done by then the whole project could be stopped until next fall, all because of nests in an area roughly 60 feet wide.
Yes, and so I would like to see those schedules pushed up a little bit, but whether or not that will happen, I don't think it will.
But the point, though, is that you got the same kind of challenges wherever you're dealing with
Yes.
the forest, because there's environmental concerns. But man, and maybe it's just my imagination, but it seems like those wheels move really, really slow.
How many cuckoos do you have down there?
Well, in my neighborhood, including our family, anyway, there's plenty. I didn't realize there was a yellow-billed cuckoo,
I didn't
let
know.
alone in Tonto Basin. But
Right.
I mean, I had a couple of nut jobs, so I didn't know we had any cuckoos. Anyway, but those environmental concerns are a real challenge on any of these kind of projects.
They always are, and it's a fight to get through them all, and I'm glad to see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It is coming. It should be here. Hopefully we can hold to those schedules.
Right.
There's not that much brush to clear, I don't believe, so.
Is there anything that can be done to grease the wheels on the communications between the feds, the Forest Service, and those folks, and the people at the county and the municipal levels? I mean, is there anything that can be done to help speed things up that way, in your opinion?
Not probably any more than what's being done.
Right.
You just have to apply the pressure. The pressure is there, and you can push harder if you want, but you're just building up a sweat. It just moves at its own pace.
Right.
And my position does not carry with it the power to demand a change in some of those schedules. It's just the
So
way
you're not allowed to smack people over the
I
head?
can't. Yeah.
Tempting though it
No,
may be.
I learned that the first week.
Yeah. But and it's got to be frustrating. And you look at so many projects from so many different angles. Another local project that I know you were just at a major event here was the new park going in out there off of Granite Dells, right?
They invited me to the groundbreaking. I was very appreciative of that.
Yeah, and it looks like that's moving forward.
It is moving forward. If you want to go take a look, they're moving a lot of dirt. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with the county. They invited me
Right.
as a dignitary, and that was great. So the county's not involved in this park. It's the MHA and the Rim Country Educational Foundation, and the town of Payson is involved in it as well. They're going to be building what looks like a very nice park. It's going to have ball fields and different recreational aspects to it, lots of different game type of things. It's going to have a lake, it's going to have trails, and then after that they're looking at building the indoor pool and all the other things kind of across the road. So I'm not involved in that project. I don't know all the details, but it's at the corner of Granite Dells and Mud Springs Road. If you want to go take a look, they are moving a lot of dirt.
Spoke to a member of the Payson Water Department here recently who
Yeah.
said, we're not really sure where they're coming up with the water for this yet, but I'm sure they've got a lot of negotiations to finish up on that.
Yeah, I don't have that answer. Yeah.
It's a good one to step away
Yeah,
from.
they are though rediverting all the drainage on that property to where it does not go out of the property. It's going to go back into the lake.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And then they're going to use that water to irrigate and supply whatever trees and everything that they have. They say it's going to be one of the very first smart parks in the state. I don't know what that involves, but that means it's going to be environmentally good. It's going to have a lot of recycle kind of ideas with it and that. So
very
it's
interesting.
a smart park.
I'll have to find out more about that. That
Yeah.
sounds fascinating. Now, the excuse me, as far as overall, you mentioned early on here the fact that the county had to declare an emergency down in Globe, Miami, because of the floods down there.
Yeah.
Has most of that been cleaned back up now?
Well, that is, I can't answer that exactly because I'm not there. I don't have a report. But I mean, if it rained last night, who knows? If
Sure.
it's like an ongoing problem. There's mud flowing down the streets in the middle of Miami. It's going into stores and residential areas. So the magnitude of the problem is exceeding our capacity to get on it and clean it up every single day. So it's a big deal.
Wow. And but I mean, it also is a great example of why we're always talking about the fact that there's increased flood danger in these burn scar areas. I don't know that that's ever been witnessed quite as starkly as it has been down in Miami in the past week or so. I mean, living down along Tonto Creek and Tonto Basin, see some big flows there. But man, I mean, we're seeing big flows in Miami going right through the town.
It's like we're getting record monsoons. I mean, I love the fact that we're having a monsoon that I haven't seen one like this in many, many years. And so I'm thankful to God that we're getting the water, the rain, but we're getting 4-inch rains, 5-inch rains. That's too much at one time. And that's the problem. It's just too much concentrated at one time.
And I know in our news yesterday, we were information from the National Weather Service. I think, if I remember correctly, Payson this last month had 6.8 inches or something like that of precip, and our historic norm for July is like 2 point something. And there was a bunch of different communities all over northern Arizona that were similarly impacted to like 3 to 4 times more rain than they're accustomed to geting. So it's got to be a challenge.
Yeah, thankfully we're not getting a lot of damage up here in the north. It's just flowing down the streets everywhere.
Right. And now, as far as these kinds of concerns, are there more meetings, on the horizon here that you're going to be attending that have to do with this stuff?
I get daily reports on this from our emergency management response people, and so no meetings are scheduled with regard to it. We have an excellent department. Michael O'Driscoll heads this up, and we have Carl Melford. And those guys, I just can't give them enough credit for everything they do. I mean, you talk about building a resume over the last year. These guys with the COVID response and leading nationally in that, and then all of this fire and the flooding. These guys
been taxed this year.
Yeah, they are really doing well.
Outstanding. Well, again, always interesting to get an update from you every month. Thank you for coming
Yeah.
in again this morning. Keep us posted.
Thank you, Randy. Look forward to next time.
All right. Been talking to your Gila County District 1 Supervisor, Steve Christensen, and we certainly appreciate his input and boy, a lot of different things going on within Gila County right now. Going to get you back to more of your favorite music, though. Tune is coming up from the Steve Miller Band, Toad and the Wet Sprocket. I must lead a sheltered life because I'm going to have to stick around just to hear what
Haven't heard that one.
Toad and the Wet Sprocket. Matter of fact, I'll make that the next song up right after this break. So stick around to 96.3 FM KRIM.
Thanks, Randy. That went well. So who's this lady here? Pro rodeo?
She's with the rodeo. I don't
Yeah.
remember her name, but she.
They're making me grand marshal
Oh, really?
on the parade. Yeah.
Wow, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Just a second, I got to do one quick thing here that I should have done before now, and I didn't. Put that right there.
It's actually ridiculous how I'm being treated. It's just ridiculous.
How's that?
Like all of a sudden I'm important. Like all of a sudden I'm